welcome back to another episode of Creative Writing Advice with me, JJ Barnes. If you don't know me, I'm JJ. I am the author of How to Write a Story, which is out now. You can get it with free UK shipping and paperback, ebook for 99p, or it's available on Amazon too for international shipping and like Kindle specific, etc, etc. But it's out there, it's in the world, you can get it. I take you from the beginning of your story through to the end, and I try to cover as much in between as I can. Over here on YouTube, I'm doing a very similar thing. This is where I am taking pieces of writing advice, I'm talking about them, breaking them down, referencing popular fiction, things that I hope will give you the confidence and inspire you and make storytelling something that you feel able to do. So thank you very much for being here, welcome, and today I am going to be talking about how to write a likeable villain. Now, you might think that that sounds like a strange idea because the villain of your piece, the baddie, they're the ones who want to hurt people and do terrible things. Why would you want them to be likeable? And the reason a likeable villain can work really well in your story is for a number of reasons. Moral complexity is so interesting, and if your character is, and any of your characters, 100% good or 100% bad, with no light and shade, no variations, no things about them that are more than just one character trait, they're really boring. People aren't like that, and so your villains don't have to be like that. Your villains can be interesting people. With more going on than just being an antagonist, with more going on than just being violent or dangerous or anything. A likeable villain is a person who is a person and has good and bad about them, and that's good. Another reason a likeable villain can work is you want your audience to think about your story beyond the pages or after the end in the film. You want your audience to stick with it and think about it and talk about it. And when you have a likeable villain, it challenges them. Because they'll see somebody who they're like, bad person, clearly bad person, villain of the piece, like very definitely motivated to do bad things. But they're like, oh, but I like them. And it makes them think and it makes them question themselves and it challenges them. And that is a really positive thing to do. And there are a whole bunch of likeable villains. I've talked before about Hannibal Lecter. Incredibly charming and likeable villain. Even though he's clearly terrible, he eats people. Norman Bates, again, charming, likeable. As in Bates Motel, he's this adorable, vulnerable, scared child. You know, he's not a good person. He is a monster, but he's incredibly likeable. He is a charming, likeable villain. The villain I'm going to focus on today, though, is Loki. Loki is, I think, the perfect example of a likeable villain. And because of how likeable he is, that's why he was brought back. The TV show for him, because even though he's introduced as this guy who is going into Germany and making people kneel and sort of referencing the Nazis, he's killing people and he's bad. He's bad. But my God, is that a likeable character? So that's why he sticks with you, because you root for him to be better because of how much you like him. You want to see him on screen, you're engaged with him, you're interested in him. Now, of course, a lot of the reason that Loki in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so likeable and charming is in the Tom Hiddleston performance, and it's possible that given to a less competent actor, that character just wouldn't have been it'd have just been an other villain. But I'm going to talk about it as if that was, that is just who the character is. Forget that it was played by Tom Hiddleston, forget all of that. Just look at the actual character that we have got on our screens, that we as the audience have connected to. Why is Loki likeable, and what can we do about it? A really interesting number one point of making a likeable villain is writing them with vulnerabilities. Loki, you see, as a child, he is lost and abandoned, he's adopted, he doesn't fit in, he feels He feels isolated. He feels like he doesn't fit into his family. He feels second to his brother. He feels all the time not good enough. And most of us, probably all of us, but I'm not going to go that far, most of us have at one time or another felt like we just don't belong. We don't fit in, and we feel excluded from our culture. And that is what Loki represents. He is excluded by way of his very nature because he's different and he's strange, and it stands out about him. So you've immediately got something vulnerable that you can care about that character. You see him as a child and you see him growing up in a world he doesn't fit in, and it's not his fault. So immediately, vulnerability, likable. He has your sympathy for that. Another thing, funny. Now, this isn't true in all likable villains, okay? It's not. But if you think of Loki, if you think of Dr. Horrible, they are funny. They are, the performance, the character is entertaining. So all the time he's doing terrible things, you're laughing and you're engaged with them because they entertain you, they make you smile. And that is an incredible thing you can do. If you can't do it, like, that's completely understandable because it's not easy to make people laugh. But if you can write a character who is simultaneously doing terrible, terrible, terrible things and genuinely being funny, that is an incredible way to give yourself a likable villain, because your audience will want to spend time with them because of the effect they have on them. Another thing, right? You need to give them layers. You can't make them monotonous. Your likable villain has to be as complicated, interesting, developed as a person as your protagonist. If they're a one-trick pony, like I said, if they are just motivated to do bad and they have nothing else going on in their personality, no other interests, nothing like that, boring, flat character. Give them layers. Give them things that they are interested in, hobbies, passions, things they're entertained by, things they care about, beyond the plot. Now, you're not going to spend a lot of time on that because you can't. You've got a story to tell, and if you start drifting off into side adventures with your antagonist, your villain, it's going to get all messy, and you don't want to do that. But you can use those things about them to shape them. You can use rivalries, such as Loki's rivalry with Thor. It drives him. It's part of who he is, even if it's not the forefront of his mind all the time, because he's doing what he's doing. That is part of his character, his history, his love for his mother, his despair in his father, like, not seeing him. These are all aspects of that whole character that are just creating these layered feelings. So he's bigger than just one thing, and that is incredibly important. And point number 4 for a likable villain, you have to make his goal, his motivation, something that makes sense. If you are giving him something to do and you're like, well, why? Why does he care about this? What is the point? I don't understand. You're going to lose your audience's interest. They're not going to care as much. They're not going to like him as much. Even if they don't agree with his motivation. Like, they might think, no, it's the bad thing to do, wrong thing to do. You can still see why it matters. You understand it. It's given to you as much as part of the plot as your protagonist. So the inciting incident of your story, you show what your protagonist wants, what they're going after, what they're trying to do, and you can follow them. You see why their story matters, and you need to treat your antagonist, your villain, or just antagonist character in the same way. You need to show what they want and why. Because if your audience doesn't understand what they want, they are not going to be interested in watching them try and get it, because they're going to like, I don't get these. It doesn't make sense to me. You'll have lost part of them. Even if they're sticking around for your story, even if they're interested in your protagonist, you're not writing a likable villain or even an interesting villain, because everyone's going to be a bit like, I don't get it, I don't care. And that is a real flaw in your story. That is a real weakness. So when you're creating your likable villain, you've got to remember they are human, they have weaknesses, vulnerabilities, things that draw you in. They are interesting people with more going on than just trying to hurt your antagonist, just trying to be the villain of the piece. They can be funny and entertaining and light and engaging on screen. They don't have to just be scary all the time. They can be fun. And Make it so you know what they want and why. Make it so that their story goal is just as clear and matters just as much as your protagonist. An unlikable villain like Loki, like Dr. Horrible, like Hannibal Lecter, like Norman Bates, these are characters that become infamous. They are incredibly popular, incredibly beloved because of the effect they have on your story and your audience. And yeah, they end up with multiple stories in their honour, and people come back and come back for more. And if you can do that with a character, if you can make your villain somebody your audience cares about so much, they want more stories with them, you've done something really good. You've pleased your audience, and you know, as a writer, you've given yourself more career opportunities, and we all need that. So thank you very much for being here for my How to Write a Likeable Villain video. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you subscribe to this channel, I'm putting out a video every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. I also am doing a book reading on a Saturday, so you can find that. Go to my website, which is jjbarnes.co.uk. Over there you'll find links to all of my work, everything I've got going on. There's also my social media. You can ask me questions, give me video topics you'd like me to cover, anything you're particularly interested in with writing, and if I can, I will do my best to break it down and make it something you can use in your own story. Or you can drop me a comment on here too and tell me what you think. Talk to me about your likeable villains. Which villain that is incredibly likeable but incredibly bad stands out to you as a favourite, because I would love to hear about it. So thank you very much, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.